Imagine a city born not in peace, but in blood. A brother kills a brother, and from that act of violence rises the greatest empire the world has ever known. Rome would stretch from the sands of Africa to the fog of Britain, from the Atlantic Ocean to the deserts of Syria. It would conquer nations, invent laws, and build monuments that still stand 2,000 years later. But here's the mystery. How did a small village on the banks of the Tiber rise to rule the known world? And why did it all collapse into silence? Stay with me, because tonight we walk the entire road of Rome, from the Wolf's Cave to the fall of an emperor. Rome begins with a legend, Romulus and Remus, twin sons of a priestess and the god of war, abandoned to die, only to be saved by a she-wolf. They grow strong, but when the time comes to build their city, ambition turns deadly. Romulus slays his brother and names the city Rome, 753 BCE. From this myth comes more than a story. It's a message. Rome is forged by sacrifice, strength, and destiny. For 2 centuries, kings shape the city. Numa Pompilius gives Rome its rituals and calendar. Tullus Hostilius trains its armies. Servius Tullius builds walls and organizes society. Each king leaves behind a piece of the Roman machine. But kingship breeds arrogance. The last ruler, Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud, governs with cruelty, ignoring the Senate, ruling by fear. And when his son commits a violent crime against a noblewoman named Lucretia, the people rise in fury. In 509 BCE, Rome does the unthinkable. They cast out their king and vow never again. In place of monarchy, they invent something new, the Republic. A system where no man rules alone, where 2 elected consuls share power, each able to veto the other, watched over by the Senate of elders. It is fragile. It is imperfect. But it is different. Rome is no longer just a city. It is an idea, government by the people, for the survival of the people. Rome's republic was no perfect democracy. The aristocrats, called patricians, held the power, while the common plebeians demanded a voice. Their struggle shaped the city's future. Out of it came a radical idea, laws written down for all to see. The 12 Tables. For the first time, justice no longer belonged to rulers alone, but to the people. Yet Rome's destiny would not be decided in the courts, but on the battlefield. Across the sea rose Carthage, rich, powerful, and master of the Mediterranean. Rome, once only a land power, captured a Carthaginian ship, copied its design, and invented the corvus, a boarding bridge that turned sea battles into infantry clashes. After 2 decades of brutal war, Rome claimed victory and took Sicily as its first province. But the real test came with Hannibal. With elephants and boldness, he crossed the Alps into Italy, bringing Rome to its knees. At Cannae, he destroyed an army of 80,000 in a single day. Yet Rome refused to surrender. Patient strategy, relentless endurance, and the brilliance of Scipio Africanus finally brought victory at Zama in 202 BCE. Carthage was beaten. By the Third Punic War, the city itself was erased from history. Rome now commanded the Mediterranean. Strength brought change. General Gaius Marius opened the legions to the poor, turning them into professionals who fought for pay, land, and glory. The army grew stronger, but loyalty shifted, from the Republic itself to the generals who commanded it. Rome had built the greatest fighting force on earth, but also planted the seeds of civil war. Then came Julius Caesar. As governor of Gaul, he conquered tribe after tribe, extending Rome's reach to the Atlantic. His victories made him rich, adored by his soldiers, and feared by the Senate. Ordered to disband his army, he refused. In 49 BCE, he crossed the Rubicon River. "The die is cast," he said, and civil war engulfed Rome. Caesar triumphed, Pompey was defeated, and Caesar stood unrivaled. He reformed the calendar, redistributed land, expanded the Senate, and in 44 BCE, he was named dictator for life. For many, it was the end of the Republic's dream. On the Ides of March, his enemies struck. Caesar fell to their daggers on the Senate floor. They thought they had saved the Republic. In truth, they had destroyed it. Caesar's death left Rome in chaos. His allies and his killers clashed for control. Out of the struggle rose two men, Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, and Octavian, his adopted son. At first, they ruled together, but rivalry soon tore them apart. Antony bound himself to Cleopatra of Egypt, while Octavian claimed to be Rome's true protector. Their final showdown came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Antony and Cleopatra fled in defeat, leaving Octavian the master of Rome. But Octavian did not call himself king. Instead, he took the name Augustus, the revered one. He claimed to be the first citizen, but in truth, he held absolute power. With him, the Republic was gone. The Roman Empire had begun. Augustus ushered in peace after a century of bloodshed. This was the Pax Romana, 200 years of stability and prosperity. Roads and aqueducts stretched across continents. Cities flourished with theaters, arenas, and monuments. Roman law, order, and language bound together lands from Spain to Syria, Britain to Egypt. The empire reached its height under the 5 good emperors, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. Trajan expanded Rome to its greatest size. Hadrian built walls to guard its frontiers. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote of duty and fate while fighting wars on the empire's borders. Under their rule, Rome was not just powerful. It was brilliant, an empire of roads, stone, and ideas. But beneath the marble, cracks began to spread. The Golden Age did not last. By the 3rd century, Rome was drowning in crisis. In just 50 years, more than 20 emperors rose and fell, most dying violently. Civil wars tore the empire apart, while enemies pressed on every border. Germanic tribes stormed across the Rhine and Danube. In the east, Persia captured a Roman emperor alive, the ultimate humiliation. Rome was bleeding from within. Armies pledged loyalty not to Rome, but to whichever general promised them gold. Farmers abandoned their land. Inflation devoured the economy. Provinces broke away to form their own empires. It seemed the empire itself might collapse. Then came Diocletian, a soldier emperor with a vision. Rome was too vast for one man to rule. He divided power among 4, 2 senior emperors and 2 juniors, in a system called the Tetrarchy. Reforms revived the army, strengthened defenses, and gave the empire breathing room. But Diocletian ruled with iron authority, demanding loyalty, enforcing religious conformity, and persecuting Christians. After 2 decades, he did the unthinkable. He retired. His system, however, would not survive him. Out of the turmoil rose Constantine. He reunited the empire and in 330 CE founded a new capital, Constantinople, on the crossroads of Europe and Asia. More than strategy, he reshaped faith itself. By legalizing Christianity, he set the stage for a new spiritual identity. The empire was no longer just Roman, it was Christian Rome. But in the West, decline was unstoppable. Corruption spread, the economy withered, and the legions filled with foreign mercenaries whose loyalty was for sale. Germanic tribes pressed harder than ever. In 410 CE, Rome itself was sacked by the Visigoths. For the first time in 8 centuries, the Eternal City had fallen to an enemy's hand. The blows kept coming. Vandals seized North Africa, the empire's breadbasket. Attila and the Huns thundered into Italy. Rome was no longer ruling, it was surviving. Finally, in 476 CE, a boy emperor named Romulus Augustus was deposed by a Germanic general. There was no great last stand, no dramatic fall, just silence. The Western Roman Empire was gone. Yet even as the West crumbled, the East endured. Centered in Constantinople, the Eastern Roman Empire, later called Byzantium, thrived for another 1,000 years. Constantinople was no ordinary city. Built by Constantine on the Bosporus, it commanded the trade between Europe and Asia, guarded by massive triple walls that stood unbroken for centuries. Inside its gates, Roman law, Greek culture, and Christian faith merged into something new. To its people, it was not a different empire. It was Rome itself. In the 6th century, Emperor Justinian dreamed of restoring the old glory. With his brilliant general Belisarius, he reconquered lands in North Africa and Italy, even Rome itself. But Justinian's true legacy was not in conquest, but in law. He gathered centuries of decrees into one system, the Corpus Juris Civilis, the foundation of civil law that still shapes justice today. And he crowned his reign with a marvel of stone, the Hagia Sophia, its dome, rising like heaven itself. But wars drained the treasury, plague decimated the people, and much of what Justinian won was soon lost. Still, Constantinople stood strong, preserving Roman knowledge, art, and faith, while the West descended into the Dark Ages. Then came betrayal. In 1204, crusaders meant to liberate Jerusalem turned their swords on Constantinople. The city was sacked, treasures stolen, its spirit wounded. Though the Byzantines reclaimed it, the empire never fully recovered. In 1453, the end finally came. Ottoman cannons shattered the walls, and Emperor Constantine XI fell sword in hand, dying with his city. The last Roman emperor did not sit in Rome, but in Constantinople. With him, the Roman world ended. And yet, Rome never truly died. Its laws lived on in Europe. Its language evolved into French, Spanish, Italian. Its architecture inspired cathedrals, domes, and palaces. Even its faith became the heart of Western civilization. Rome had fallen, but its shadow stretched across centuries. Rome's story is not just the tale of battles and emperors. It is the story of humanity itself, our ambition, our brilliance, and our flaws. From a brother's blade on the banks of the Tiber to the glittering domes of Constantinople, Rome shaped the very world we live in. Its empire is gone, but its legacy endures. In our laws, in our languages, in the arches of our cities, and in the very idea that order can outlive chaos. Rome did not vanish, it transformed. And in that sense, Rome is still with us. If you found this journey through time inspiring, give this video a like, share it with fellow history lovers, and subscribe to History in Motion for more stories that bring the past to life. Because history is not just what happened, it is what still lives inside us.